Hi everyone! Take 483 of this gosh darn video about stim tools. Let's see if I can make it work this time. And if I can, I'll just circle the block again and try it again. But, stim tools. What are they? Who uses them? Why might you want to use one? Stimming, S-T-I-M-M-I-N-G, you'll also see it in the subtitles. Stimming is short for stimulating. It's not a sex thing. It's not an inappropriate thing or anything like that, although some people think that from the name. It's something that autistic people are famous for, but I'll argue that everyone stims. Everybody stims sometimes. And I think it's something that we need to talk about a bit more and recognize that we all do. Stimming is usually playing with something in your hands, fiddling with it as you talk or as you think. Sometimes you can stim visually by looking at something or enjoying looking at something, or you might stim by listening to the same song over and over and over on repeat, either the whole song or just a part of the song. Those are less common. Generally, when people are talking about stimming, they're talking about stimming with something in your hands. And you can stim using a wide range of tools. The most common stim tool that I use is Thinking Putty. There was that pop sound was me popping that. They're fun to pop. And what Thinking Putty is pretty straightforward stuff. You've probably played with something like this at some point. Maybe you played with plasticine, as they call it down under, or Play-Doh, as we call it up north. This is a bit tougher than your average Play-Doh, and it doesn't leave sticky feeling on your hands, so it's a little bit better for the workplace. And the stuff I use is actually color changing, so as I work this, you might see that it gets more and more pink versus purple. And it's just fun to do. It's something that I do when I'm thinking or working, and I will use this pretty much every single day. When I'm reading articles even, it doesn't have to be work stuff. Just when I'm surfing the internet. Does anyone actually say surfing the internet anymore? But when I'm surfing the internet, I will play with this. And it's not, super fun. I'd rather play a video game. But the fun of a stim tool and the fun of actual fun don't serve the same purpose. A stim tool helps me... The best example that I've been able to come up with is it's kind of like there's too much thought energy coursing through my brain, like a river with too much water in it, overflowing the banks. And what a stim tool does is it helps me reduce the flow and control the flow a lot more better, like a dam or something like that, or diverting a bit of the river flow. And if I don't do that, then it's a lot harder for me to focus on tasks because there's just so much thought energy coursing through me that I can't narrow it down to focus on the one or two things I actually care about. And this helps me bleed off some of that energy, just playing with this. It doesn't mean that I'm not paying attention. In fact, it probably means that I'm paying better attention than I would be if I wasn't using this. But this is my favorite stim tool, but let me show you some others that other people use. And you'll notice that I say stim tool. The more common terminology is stim toy, but I feel like toy gives the wrong impression because a toy is something that a child messes around with, whereas a tool is something that a child or an adult uses in order to do something better, in this case, focus better. And also, toy feels a bit belittling. Sometimes some of the stuff that neurotypical people say about autistic people kind of makes us sound younger than we are. I'm 32 this year. I'm not a little kid. Yeah, so I prefer Stim Tool. But here's some others. Some of you might remember this. Everyone loves a Slinky. These were still popular when I was a little kid. I think everyone's moved on a little bit from these. But I remember I had a big rainbow one back in, it would have been 94, because I was in the, I was still in the, oh, I've forgotten the name of it, the Millender Center. I was still in the Millender Center. So we were in a little apartment, but my mom and me, but she took me out to the fire stairs so that I could play with my new rainbow Slinky she had gotten me. And this is a little one. Probably wouldn't go down the stairs. Maybe stairs for a mouse. But it's, you know, you wibble wobble it around and you can feel the motion as you play with it. And then as you drag it around, the lines across your fingertips and the nice sound it makes. And yeah, it's just something to fiddle around with. And I also like it because it reminds me of a Stim tool that a lot of people, particularly older people like me and older generations, would have played with as they were making a telephone call. You know, playing with the telephone cord as you have the conversation. Yeah. It was a sad day when we all moved to cordless phones. And what else do we have here? Oh! Here's a visual Stim tool I was telling you about. Not really interactive. But it sure is fun to look at, isn't it? I could watch that all day. And sometimes people will carry a little car in their pocket because it's fun to play with the wheels and it's just something to fiddle with your hands. This one's my personal favorite, one of my favorite Disney characters there. Get her done. What else do we have here? Oh, this is one that's popular with the kids right now, I hear. I wouldn't know. I don't actually have any younger kids in my life at the moment. No one to be an aunt or an uncle to, and none of my own, of course. But I think they're called Poppets, and basically they're supposed to be like infinite bubble wrap. You can pop it out. And then when you're done, you pop it out the other side, and it's, you know, doesn't have a whole lot of features, but it knows what it does, and it does it well, which I can respect. And you can get these in all sorts of colors and shapes, like unicorn heads and the little space guy from Among Us and stuff like that. And, oh, and here's another one I have. It's a little bracelet. You can attach it around, and then you can wear it as a bracelet, because who doesn't like fashion accessories? And then you have it with you wherever you go. I love portability. I was a traveler. And here's another one that was popular with the kids about 5 to 7 years ago, I want to say. You know what it's like these days. It was either, last month or 10 years ago. But this is a fidget spinner. Good old fidget spinner. And I never actually really got into these. I was already in university by that point, so yeah, I'm too old. But these were really popular for a while with kids, and like little kids do, there was all sorts of fancy ones. There were ones that lit up. There were ones that looked like they had crystals on them or gold plating or whatever. And, they fought with them and they threw them at each other like ninja stars, or they would trade, and then one of them was unhappy with the trade and the other kid wouldn't do trade backs, or, kids. And, like has happened before with Pokemon cards or Beanie Babies or whatever. And like all those other times, a lot of schools and teachers reacted by banning fidget spinners, which I understand, but there were kids who genuinely needed this to be able to focus, and I really hope that they didn't get caught up in the crossfire. I really hope that they were allowed to keep their fidget spinners. Just one, you don't need a collection. I I hope they were allowed to keep it, but I don't have a lot of confidence. Unfortunately, disabled people get trampled a lot when able-bodied, neurotypical people make decisions like this. But what else do I have here? Oh, these are a couple that are popular with people who work in the office. This one's just some metal rings with some rubber bands, and you can fiddle with it and you can spin it over and over. And it's good because it's small, and you can just keep it in your pocket and fiddle with it while you're in a meeting. Although, maybe not in your pocket. Fiddling with something in your... yeah, maybe not. Depending on, things. And this is a fidget cube, and this one's great. It's got everything. It's got a little indenty area so you can, smooth your finger over it, and it's got a clicky switch, and it's got a joystick, and it's got clicky buttons, and a trackball, and these little gear shapes, and it's great. It's all the fun you need right there. And I like this one also because it's got galaxy print, and I'm a sucker for galaxy print. But the reason I wanted to show you all this stuff is because a lot of us stim, even though we don't know it. Like my example with the telephone cord. I'll give you another example. One time, my office was hosting a bunch of autistic high school students to come do a tour of some of our technical stuff. And we were hanging out in an office room waiting for the tour to come back, the second group. And the first group saw that one of the office chairs, the foam armrest, had all been picked away and destroyed. And they were really surprised because, while everyone's seen that before, it's the sort of thing you expect from a bunch of little kids, like primary school students, elementary school students, not something you expect from grown adults. So they asked me, hey, what gives? And I said, oh, that's really simple. What's happened is someone's been losing focus in a meeting at some point, and in order to retain that focus, they've decided to stim, but because they didn't have a stim tool with them, they just plucked at the armrest and destroyed it, which is a shame. And they were like, oh yeah, okay, makes sense. And made sense to me too. And I could see the light go on in my boss at the time's eyes. He's neurotypical. And he had never thought of it that way before. A lot of people don't. They just thought, oh, that's a bad employee. That's a rude, disrespectful employee who's destroyed the chair just because they're a jerk. Instead of seeing it as that's someone who is just a human being. They're not a bad employee or a bad person, but they needed an accommodation and they couldn't receive it. And it meant that they weren't able to do their best. Simple as that. And it's not a choice to not do our best. We're trying as hard as we can, really. I'll give you a personal example. Not long after I started working here at BHP as an intern, there were a few times where I was trying to go it alone. I was trying to be an adult, a professional, and just go into meetings without a stim tool because I wanted to be taken seriously. And it was so hard for me to stay focused that I fell asleep in more than one meeting. And a couple of those times I didn't get caught, but a couple times I did. And I was very embarrassed. I was mortified. And everyone was a good sport about it, but I learned my lesson and I started bringing my thinking putty with me to meetings. It's not a choice. I didn't want to fall asleep at work, trust me. But it was something that I needed. And it's something that a lot of us need, so I just wanted to tell you about it. And I'm going to cut it off now before I run out of time again and I have to record this all over. Bye!